All right, so I gotta talk about this because the glaze on The Long Walk is unreal. Now, everywhere I look, people are just glazing this movie. It's a 10 out of 10. It's a masterpiece. You have to see it. Really? Like, bro, it ain't curing cancer. It's just kids walking in a line. But I'm not gonna lie, going into this movie, I was like, okay, that looks like it's gonna be interesting. The premise itself looks cool, and it's something I haven't seen, Stephen King movie, right? And then I watched it, and I'm sitting here like, they're calling this The Long Walk? They should have called this The Long Sit, because that's what it felt like in the theater. Now look, I think we all know the premise, right? It's just people selected to walk in a straight line, last one wins the grand prize. That's really the movie, right? And this movie was directed by Francis Lawrence, which he's done I Am Legend and The Hunger Games. Now the cast is David Johnson, from Alien, Cooper Hoffman, as the Random Joe, Ben Wang from Cobra Kai, with some little Mark Hamill and Judy Greer sprinkled in. But not gonna lie, I'm kind of stunned by the budget. Only $20 million, so it shouldn't be hard to make their money back, especially with all the overglazing happening. And the runtime was 1 hour and 48 minutes long, which, for a normal movie, that's good. But when you're walking in a straight line for 1 hour and 48 minutes, felt like I was walking. Now I'm just messing, but it has a 94 on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.5 on IMDb. So the critics, man, they really must love watching people just walk. But alright guys, let me just get into some pros and cons so you can get a better understanding of why I think this movie is just overglazed right now. So look, we'll start with the pros, right? I think the premise is good. You have a group of people lined up. They gotta walk. Whoever's the last one wins. How is it gonna play out? What's gonna happen? That's good. It keeps you engaged. Just the idea itself keeps you engaged and interested at least. The movie starts quick, walk or catch a bullet. That's basically the movie, and it kind of dumps the rules on you like a substitute teacher would. It just throws them at you, gives you the situation, here you go, and it gets going right away. Along with that, I know people have been saying the acting in here, from David Johnson or Cooper or even Ben, or some of the other supporting characters in here. All of them, had this unique camaraderie, walking for days on end. So that was good. There were some characters who literally didn't get much screen time at all, and there, maybe like 10 of them that did. But overall, that was good. David Johnson, he's always, pretty good in his movies. Cooper, he was good in this. And Ben, just fresh from Cobra Kai. I thought his character was a little weird at first, but it worked, I guess. And just some of the survival details in here, like when they have to use the bathroom or they need food or water, how they fare at night, stuff like that makes you think, how would I do it, or what are they going to do when this happens? They kind of show you, certain glimpses or things that happen. So it kind of gives you an answer, and it just makes it entertaining in some scenes, just to see what they do. And also some of the deaths were really gory, enough to wake people up from watching 40 minutes of cardio. And at least in my crowd, there was people laughing at the jokes, the banter back and forth between the characters. There was some guy, and I'll just say this, there was only 10 people in the theater. But there was a few people that were just laughing like crazy. And I'm sitting there like, bro, this ain't Step Brothers. And the last thing I'll say is it had some emotion. I think that's kind of the main thing that'll carry this movie. The suspense and the emotion. I don't know. It's just like there is emotional scenes in here depending on how connected you get to some of these characters. But regardless, like it did have suspense in certain moments. Did have some emotional scenes, whether it was the ending or certain characters dying. It was emotional at times. And I think that's the main thing this movie has going for it, is just the chemistry with the characters and the emotional suspense scenes. But with that, let's go into some of the cons. Let me just start by saying this. You're literally going to watch 2 hours of walking. And I get it. Look, that's the movie. The Long Walk. They're just going to be walking. How do you make a movie like that interesting? What do you do? How do you not make it boring after the first 20 minutes? Once they start walking, like, ooh, I want to see what happens. And then they keep walking, and then they keep walking, and you're like, all right, so you're just going to go back and forth talking about random stuff. That's good, yeah. Oh, we need to have someone killed? All right, let's have someone die. Why not? That's kind of how the movie was. Like, every time someone would die, they'd start walking again, and then it'd cut to like a different point of time. They'd be walking, talking back and forth, and then, we need someone to die. It's been too long. Let's just have a random death. And some of these deaths in here, they were like dumb. Like some of the decisions they made were like suicide, basically. It's like, you're not going to live if you do this. why are you doing that? And like I said, there were some dumb kills in here. There's also some dumb scenes in here. Like some of the banter was kind of dumb, but also like there's a goofy scene in here where a kid throws a punch and he goes flying like 15 feet. Bro has the arm of Thor or something, you know, voo, ooh, just went flying. And it's like, come on, like what do we do? Is that in the book? I don't remember reading that in the book. And you know, while I said people were speed running death just by some of the dumb choices they made, other people literally died to use the bathroom. Now, would you kill yourself to go number 2? I don't know. That's a tough one right there. You know, I might, you know, depending on... No, you wouldn't. Like, well, come on, you wouldn't. And just stuff like that. It's like, come on, dude. You really got to use the bathroom or you know, you really got to eat or whatever the situation is. You got to keep moving, bro. Like, you're not going to risk your life for this unless you're mentally checked out and you're just like, have no faith in yourself. But it's just, really? That was in the book. Okay, now let me get into the bread and butter. I think one of them is predictability. This movie was predictable because you know who's going to make it to the end. Obviously, you know who the final ones are going to be. Then you know that the group is probably going to be like the 5. And you know the characters who are getting no screen time are just going to get wiped out right away. So I just felt like it was predictable. And while yes, like obviously we're going to know who the final ones are or whatnot, I just don't think the suspense was really there with them. Like some of the kids dying and whatnot, there was like no connection for me. You know, besides the main 2 of David and Cooper, to me, this felt like there wasn't much connection with the rest of them. Like, yeah, there was a few of them that like kind of fit into the group, but I don't know. It just, they didn't connect. So when they died, it was just like, dang, all right, let's go to the next person die. I want to see who dies next. I want to see how this ends. I want to get to walking home. And the next thing I'll say is this movie drags. And I know that might just be me, but there's no way because like the movie, like I said, it just repeats. It's just a cycle. You know what's gonna happen. They have to keep playing to this dumb cycle. It should have been at least 20 minutes shorter, I feel like. Because look, all they're doing is walking. They're just walking. What kind of banter can you have in this? Well, how is the book? How big's the book? You know, I want to read because what did they all leave out of here? Or what did they put into here? That's what I want to know. But I just thought, in my opinion, this movie dragged. And, you know, with the final thing I'll say is the ending. Now, not only did I think the ending was like anticlimactic, while yes, it kind of was emotional, it was still anticlimactic. Like, you can't even lie, because there was a bunch of things throughout the movie, kind of like story beats, right? And they didn't tie up any of them. They just ended the movie after what happened at the end happened. They just ended it. They didn't show what happened to the winner who won the prize, the money. They didn't show what happened to, you know, the loved ones of the families. Nothing. They just ended the movie. And I've heard that, like, that's kind of what Stephen King does. He just ends. But like, really? That's how we're doing it? It's a movie? You're gonna already add some dumb deaths? You're not gonna add an ending? I don't know, guys. To me, this movie was something I was looking forward to. I genuinely was. I was like, man, that looks like a good premise. I'm actually excited. Like, this could be pretty entertaining, right? And then just watching it, it's like, it's just kind of disappointing, honestly, because I was expecting more. And to see how many people are glazing this movie is crazy. You know, you slap Stephen King's name on it, it gives it a +10 glaze, I feel like. Like, I just don't understand. You know, I wanted to like this, but overall, I just felt like it felt flat. And that's the ranking I'm going to give this movie, the Flat Soda Award. I just, like I said, I think it felt kind of flat, fizzled out for me. The ending just wasn't there, and just the suspense, I just didn't think there was enough of it. It was just a little too boring or dull. You can only do so much by walking. Trying to add suspense here or there, I mean, there's not a lot you can do, I feel like. And so, yeah, guys, those are my thoughts. Comment below if you've seen this movie and what you think. You know, I am curious to know. Well, just because I didn't like it, I want to know if you did watch it, why you liked it. And if the points that I made, if you agree or disagree, and why, you know, you agree or disagree. But anyways, guys, thank you if you're still here for watching. Comment below what you think, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.